Think back to when you were little and imagine you're in a pizza parlor. There's music, pizza, it's way too greasy though, and you're having fun with all your friends. And then you look a little to your right. There, you see a group of animatronics on a stage, singing to you, eerily. Their mouths open and close in these weird static jerks, and their eyes, they don't quite look right. And deep down, even as a little kid, you're like, yeah, there's definitely something not right with these things. That feeling, the mix of fun and fear, is basically the very DNA for Mascot horror itself. And the wild part is, it built an entire subgenre of games that grew out from this exact feeling. We're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, Poppy Playtime, Bendy and the Ink Machine, and even, yes, Garten of Banban. They're huge now. Well, how did these games, which at first glance look very, very niche, end up dominating horror, streaming, and YouTube all at the same time? That's what I'm going to try dig into today. So we need to rewind a little bit first, long before Five Nights at Freddy's. Back then, people already kind of found mascots in pizza parlors or anything like that creepy. Like animatronic bands from the 80s, like the Rockefeller explosion. You can still look up videos of them now, and they still look as terrifying as they did back then. They're scary even without the horror context. They break down mid-song, their jaws lock and their face glitch out. It's really creepy to look at. And even in pop culture, there has always been the idea of playing with friendly characters but turn them really, really scary. There was movies like Child's Play with Chucky, and It with Pennywise. All those movies had the corrupted childhood memory stories in them. And even in video games at the time, you had horror experimentation too, like Silent Hill turning playgrounds into nightmares, Amnesia proving that atmosphere alone could be more scary than any monster could be, and of course Slenderman exploding online in 2012. By the time indie horror was blowing up on YouTube, all the pieces were sitting there already, waiting for someone to connect them all. And that's exactly when Scott Cawthon appeared. So it's 2014 and Five Nights at Freddy's just dropped. At first glance, it doesn't really look like a very big deal. One small indie title created by one person, and the story is very simple too. You're a night guard, stuck in an office watching cameras, and the mechanics of the game are almost boring on paper. You flip between screens, check doors, and try not to die before the end of the night. But then it hits you. There's just a weird tension of feeling helpless in this building, in this office at nighttime. You're kind of just waiting for the creature to jump out at you. Instead of walking around looking for them, that paranoia of watching some grainy camera footage where you can barely tell if Freddy just moved or if your eyes are just playing tricks on you, is kind of genius. And then the jump scares hit. I mean, nobody forgets their first Five Nights at Freddy's jump scare. It's completely terrifying. But here's the weird part. The game didn't blow up just because it was scary. It blew up because YouTube made it a show for everyone who watched it. If you were around in 2014, you know that Markiplier uploaded his very first Five Nights at Freddy's video, and it just exploded overnight. He branded himself as the king of Five Nights at Freddy's, and most people ran with it. The most popular YouTubers like PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, CoryxKenshin, and every big creator hopped on the trend. The formula of gameplay was perfect for build-up. It had tension, plus sudden screams equals instant entertainment for fans. And unlike a single-player story game, Five Nights at Freddy's was endlessly watchable. Every death was funny and every run was intense. Every night for each YouTuber felt like a new challenge for them. And then came the theories. Oh my god, the theories. MatPat's Game Theory channel basically became Five Nights at Freddy's central. Every tiny Easter egg, every single minigame, every newspaper clipping, suddenly it was a mystery box. People weren't just watching to be scared anymore, they were watching to learn more about the lore that was there. So now, Five Nights at Freddy's wasn't just a game, it became a little community event, where every new release was like Marvel dropping a new movie. But here's the best part. Five Nights at Freddy's wasn't even technically that groundbreaking, but it definitely nailed something psychological. First, you had nostalgia. Those animatronics, they feel just like the ones in Chuck E. Cheese or Disneyland or wherever you see them in most places. It's almost like Five Nights at Freddy's weaponized that childhood nostalgia feeling, and then you have the uncanny valley effect. The way Freddy and the gang move is just close enough to feel alive to freak you out, but not close enough to feel exactly human. And lastly, helplessness. Most horror games let you run, hide, or fight, but Five Nights at Freddy's traps you in a chair. You just sit there and wait to die, basically, or survive until 6 a.m. That's really scary when you think about it. And then layered all on top of that, you have a hidden story that's very, very easy to miss. The murders of the haunted kids or the accidents, it gave fans a reason to stay long after the jump scares wore off. And after the release of the first game, that's when things went from popular indie game to cultural phenomenon. The fandom went nuts. Art, cosplays, animations, comics. You couldn't really escape Five Nights at Freddy's. Online musicians made full-on bangers inspired by the games, like the Living Tombstone's Five Nights at Freddy's song, which has over 400 million views at the time of this video. By the way, kids who'd never seen the games know this song. And don't even get me started on the fan games. You had scary nightmare fuel like Joy of Creation, Five Nights at Candy's, and Pop Goes. Entire spin-offs made by fans who just wanted to play in the Five Nights at Freddy's sandbox. Some of them were actually really good. They felt like real sequels. So now Five Nights at Freddy's wasn't really Scott Cawthon's creation anymore. It was basically owned by the internet at that point. And everyone was contributing something to the games. When Scott saw the popularity of the game series, he definitely capitalized on it. But that's not entirely a bad thing. Sequels dropped at lightning speed. And each one shook up the formula bit by bit, whether it was game mechanics, new animatronics, new lore, and every single one was dissected to death by YouTubers and theorists alike. But it didn't just stop at games. Books came out, some canon, some not, and then merch like plushies, Funko Pops, action figures, and eventually a full-on featured film. Five Nights at Freddy's went from one indie hit to a total franchise. Like, this is on the same shelves as Pokemon. That's crazy. But when something explodes on the internet, imitators definitely follow. And that's where mascot horror kinda went from a genre that was really unique and niche to kind of oversaturated. You got Bendy and the Ink Machine twisting old cartoons into nightmares, Poppy Playtime, which gave us Huggy Wuggy, a huge plush doll with razor sharp teeth, and yeah, even Garten of Banban, which, love it or hate it, shows how quickly this formula can be copied. All these games leaned into the same kind of formula. Childhood nostalgia gone wrong or gone scary. Cute mascots, scary vibes, and cryptic hidden lore. And YouTube was obsessed. Because the reaction content from these series basically made itself, and the content was right there. So, if you don't mind, I'm gonna get a little nerdy here. Why does this specific flavor of horror land so hard with people? Well, in my opinion, it messes with our childhood safety nets. Toys, cartoons, mascots, shows, things that are supposed to comfort you when you're little, are turned against you when you're much older. And that's way scarier than some monster or generic zombie can be. Then, like I said previously, the uncanny valley effect definitely takes part. Animatronics, mascots, dolls, they're kind of in that creepy middle ground between alive and dead, and our brains can't really compute that. And then lastly, the powerlessness. Most mascot horror games stick you in a tight space or limit your tools in some way. You're not running around with a gun, you're sitting there in a chair hiding, or sweating, or praying that the doors don't run out of power. It's like a creepy horror cocktail, and that's basically engineered to mess with your brain or your heart. But like any trend, there is downsides, and suddenly mascot horror was everywhere, some of it good, some of it, let's just say, not good. Games were rushed out to cash in, storylines got thinner or less interesting, and you had controversies like some games even dropping NFTs. And honestly, the oversaturation made people roll their eyes at mascot horror, like, oh great, another Five Nights at Freddy's ripoff. Like, even Five Nights at Freddy's itself got weighed down by the pressure. The bigger the lore got, the harder it was to keep track of anything, and the less it felt like that original experience. It was a lot harder to stay consistent, I bet. And with the newest release like Security Breach, people were definitely split. Some loved the new open world mall feeling, and others thought it lost the original thing that made it feel like Five Nights at Freddy's. So yeah, Mascot horror had and still has its growing pains. Here's the thing though, I don't think Mascot horror is going anywhere anytime soon. Five Nights at Freddy's is still massive, and it has sequels and spin-offs out the wazoo. It even has a second movie coming out. Poppy Playtime is still rolling out chapters, fan games are popping up consistently, and new indie devs are experimenting with the exact same formula Scott used originally. As long as people have that deep-rooted fear of childhood innocence turned very creepy, Mascot horror will probably have an audience for years to come. So yeah, Chuck E. Cheese to Five Nights at Freddy's, from Hoogie Woogie to Ban Ban, Mascot horror has carved out its very own permanent space in gaming and horror itself, whether you like it or not. It works because it flips our nostalgia on its head, and it takes things that used to comfort us and make them the enemy. And the scariest part, we can't seem to look away. And we all eat it up because deep down, we all know those robots at Chuck E. Cheese were always watching us. So what's your favorite Mascot horror game? Let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear recommendations. Also, this video may seem very familiar, and that's because this is a video that came out a few months ago, but had serious quality and audio issues, so I thought I'd re-upload it, re-edit it, and repost it. That video was also half the amount of time this one was, so I wrote the script, and it should have taken me over like 12 minutes to read, and I ran through it in about 7. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I probably have more to come, and you should definitely check me out on TikTok or YouTube Shorts, because that's where I post a majority of my content. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed my video. And why not leave a like or a comment to tell me how you felt about it, and I'd love to improve my content in the future. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys around. Bye!